welcome back to Coffee Conversations. My name is Taylor Connors, and I am the Inclusion TOSA for the district. For this month's episode, I wanted to take some time to refresh our minds about some important laws. As we continue our neighborhood school initiative and our inclusion journey, we have to remind ourselves of the why. Why is this the right path forward? Why does inclusion matter? What is the reason why we are putting such an emphasis on inclusion? And some people know their why, and others are still exploring their why. Some may say it's because the research suggests that it's best for all students. Some may say that because every student has the right to be included. And others may argue that all students belong in their classroom. But one big why that we need to keep in mind is that it's actually the law. So many of you have probably heard of the law IDEA, or Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And it was a law that was enacted in 1975. This law has 6 key principles that ensure students with disabilities have access to education. So we are very quickly going to go over those 6 key principles, and then I'm going to call your attention to one specifically that I really want to hone in on. So I'm going to shut my camera off here and go over here to share the presentation with you. Principle number 1 of the IDEA law is free and appropriate public education. Some of you have probably more than likely heard of this before. It's often referred to as FAPE. IDEA guarantees that each child with a disability eligible for special education will be entitled to a free, appropriate public education, even if the child is suspended or expelled. Principle number 2 is appropriate evaluation. All children with disabilities and who are in need of special education and related services are identified, located, and evaluated. Principle number 3, the Individualized Education Program, also Individualized Education Plan, or IEP, which I'm sure all of you have heard of. An individualized education program is developed, reviewed, and revised for each child with a disability. Principle number 4, least restrictive environment, or you may have heard of it as LRE. Children with disabilities must be educated with their non-disabled peers as much as appropriate using supplementary aids and services. Principle number 5, parent and student participation in decision-making. As we all know, this is a team effort and not just the school team. We involve the parent as well as the student where appropriate. So IDEA requires that parents and students as appropriate, usually in secondary, have the opportunity to participate in each step of special education process. And finally, number 6, the procedural safeguards. And these are special rules that ensure the rights of children with disabilities and their parents are protected and understood. And if you'd like more information on any of these 6 principles, there's a little link down here. It says link to handout for more details about each principle. It goes much more in depth for each of them. But I just wanted to give you a quick little snapshot of those 6 principles of the IDEA law. One principle that I really want to call attention to is principle number 4, the least restrictive environment, or LRE. Under IDEA, schools are required to educate students with disabilities with their non-disabled peers to the greatest extent possible, utilizing supplemental aids and services. Educators should be exhausting their list of supplemental aids and services before ever considering to remove a student from their general education classroom. If you don't have an exhaustive list of supports, I have one linked in this presentation on another slide that I will get to in just a second. This is a little snapshot that I took from some inclusive leaders that I'm following pretty closely. And in that blue box, it says special education services should be delivered in regular education classes, not special classes, separate schooling, or other removal from the regular gen ed environment, only if the nature or severity of the disability of the child is such that education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved satisfactorily. So what this means is, are we truly exhausting that list of supplementary aids and services? And oftentimes we haven't tried everything, And sometimes we jump to conclusions too quickly, where there might be some supplementary aids and services that we could be providing right in the general education classroom that will help the student with disability be successful in the gen ed setting. So unless the IEP of a child with a disability requires some other arrangement, the child is educated in the school that he or she would attend if non-disabled. Additionally, a child with a disability is not removed from education in age-appropriate regular classrooms solely because of needed modifications in the general education curriculum. So again, we want to be providing all of these supports within the gen ed classroom to our fullest extent possible. This is just a portability test. So just some questions to guide your decision making when thinking about removing a student from general education classroom. So it says, can services be brought to the child instead of moving the child to a room or school where services already exist? And can the educational services be feasibly provided in an unsegregated setting? If so, the placement in a segregated setting is inappropriate. So if we could provide these two things and we are still choosing to segregate the child, it's an inappropriate placement for that student. Here is a link to supplementary aids and supports. So if you click on this, it will bring you to a checklist of supplementary supports, aids, and services. And this is just some supports. This is not all by any means, but it's broken down into environmental, pacing of instruction, presentation of subject matter, bunch of different subcategories that you can look through and ask yourself, have we tried all of the possible supports? So this will be a resource for you to look at your leisure. So I know some of you are probably on the other end thinking, so does this mean students with disabilities need to be in their gen ed classrooms all day long? And the answer is not particularly, because as we know, each student has different needs. But by law, we need to optimize their time in the classroom to the fullest extent possible. And student B, fullest extent possible, might look different than student A's fullest extent possible. So as we continue our journey with neighborhood schools, I encourage you to keep exploring your why. Why is this the best? Keeping in mind that the law is only one reason why. There's multiple reasons why. Our journey needs to start with us and our mindsets that every child has the right to belong. If you're interested in learning more or want more information, please do not hesitate to reach out. I hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you next time on the next Coffee Conversations.